Mm. All right. Welcome, everyone who's watching on Facebook. We're so glad you've joined us this afternoon for our open office, district growth with Superintendent Shauna Murphy. The format of this meeting is to, one, be able to hear your thoughts and opinions, and for our wonderful superintendent to be able to answer some questions about the growth plan. So we'll be taking questions. We also um, uh, for anyone who joins the Zoom link, which was shared out as well. If they want to transition over to Zoom and they want to come in and they want to have a dialogue or conversation, they can do that as well. We're going to be sharing that link here on Facebook in just a moment. So that way, we have a couple options for inviting individuals to come into the meeting. While we're doing that, Superintendent, is there anything you want to start sharing about the actual growth plan and maybe the reason why we're going down this road and what the thoughts are from the district perspective?
Absolutely. Thank you, Rob. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join us tonight. This is the first of several open office hours throughout the month of finishing up October and leaping into November, giving us a chance to hear from you, to hear from the public, their thoughts, their questions, their wonders, their suggestions about what we're calling the growth plan. This work really began this past spring and summer. We were working really hard on closing our budget gap. It was a pretty significant budget gap. And as we reviewed every department's budget, every building, every schoolhouse's budget, it took me immediately to thinking about work that our board's ad hoc committee did for a pretty extended period of time, about 18 months or so. And I began to look at those recommendations, and it gave me a lot of ahas about how we can begin to work towards having a better time, a stronger budget process for Cincinnati Public Schools. And so we introduced what we called phase one, which involved starting with Riverview East Academy, looking at Spencer, looking at our Promise Center programming and our students, looking at our Dr. Odell Owens Center, and looking at Schroeder High School in terms of having the opportunity to create our first middle school model. That was just phase one. We knew that we were marking out a three-phase presentation for the district, for the community. And so what we have been into since school started is working and mapping out what we're calling phase two. This is a very comprehensive project proposal that I believe many people may have heard for the first time during last Saturday's board retreat and then Monday during the board meeting. And so I just want to open the floor. I'll pause now and allow anyone who may have questions, comments, suggestions. We are really interested in the community engaging with us in this process and the thoughts that we have around our district and the future. So I'll pause, and I'm wondering, Rob, if you might be able to help me with knowing if there's anyone with a question either in the chat or a raised hand or addressing whatever thoughts people may have.
Yeah, absolutely. So the good news is we have 28 people on live on Facebook. So if you have a question you might have or something you'd like to share first, you're welcome to share it in the comments of Facebook, and we will share it with the superintendent. We have also shared the Zoom link on on Facebook as well. And you're more than welcome to join us on the Zoom side if you'd like, and interact directly with the superintendent. These are open office hours. The goal here is that that's exactly it. You come in and you interact with the superintendent for this hour and be able to be a part of the conversation. So we Would love to have that. All right, looks like we have our first question. What metrics or variables would help persuade you to keep Clark Junior High where it is currently? So,
Sure. Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And so I'll start by the why around Clark and looking at trying to create its own junior high school in a different building than what you have right now in the Hyde Park building. The why is what I have found is every year there are students and families who are turned away from being able to receive the Clark experience. And so what we're trying to do really hard is look at a way to be able to provide everyone who wants that type of Montessori experience in our city to be able to get that. So last year, we originally had on the waiting list about 49 students. And this year, right now, we have about 90 students. And so what we want to be able to do for students and families so that they remove any concern they have about their first choice is be able to deliver that. So I'm not sure if those numbers were smaller or not growing. That would probably be helpful. A few years ago, I'll say three, for about a 2-year period of time, we were in a situation where we would be able to give every sixth grade Montessori student on the east side of the town, and in particular, I'm talking about Sands, I'm talking about Pleasant Ridge Montessori, and I'm talking about North Avondale Montessori. We said that everyone could come in. But as it turns out, 2 years went by, it was extremely popular, has been popular for as long as I can remember. We weren't able to give that guarantee any longer. And so we had to enter those students back into the lottery. So metrics around whatever we could do to be able to guarantee or provide the choice that students and families want for their children. Then I think another question popped up, but but I think I missed it.
yeah, so just Parker had a comment. That was his question. And thank you, Parker, first for asking questions. We greatly appreciate it. Even if separating the junior high is anti-authentic to the Montessori program, ruining the program to allow more students doesn't make any sense.
Sure. We definitely don't want to take away its authenticity. And so maybe you can share more about what would be missing by moving the students to a different building because I have not yet found that. Yeah, we do
And
believe that we can do a fantastic job with the 7th and 8th grade students being in a different building, and I have not ran into a concern yet. Who are you consulting who has Montessori credentials and talking to people who are doing Montessori work in Cincinnati Public Schools? And asking for any background information that people who are currently working in Cincinnati Public Schools doing Montessori work. And so again, if you can tell me and share with me and help me with what would be missing, that would be extremely helpful, and we would definitely consider it, dig deeper, and have further conversation.
thank you very much, Superintendent. We greatly appreciate it. Uh, all right. So, Parker, I do see your question. We are going to just share for anyone who's jumping in or joining now. We are taking questions in a couple ways. This is open office with the superintendent on district growth. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. You can raise your hand. We can bring you over on camera and you can have a discussion with the superintendent. You can also leave them in the comments on Facebook and we'll happily share them with the superintendent and she will do her best to be able to answer your questions and concerns. But that's exactly the format. It's open office. Peter again said, asked, who are we consulting as Montessori credentials? And how would it be possible to be up to the parents and not your responsibility to consult with CPS professionals? Okay, yep. Let's see, so Montessori questions. CPS professionals, sorry, that shifted. Credentials in Montessori education. Why is that an afterthought? So
The
a
question.
lot of conversation around the Montessori credentialing.
Yeah, I've been talking with people in Cincinnati Public Schools who are Montessori educators, leaders in Montessori in Cincinnati Public Schools in order to formulate the decisions. So I believe there's a question about how could that possibly be up to the parents and not your responsibility to consult with CPS professionals who are credentialed in Montessori education. Why is that an afterthought? The conversations have been going on for the past several years. Quite frankly, we've been talking about how to provide families who are requesting Montessori education for quite some time. This is not a new concern that we have had. This has been going on for many years.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Superintendent, for answering those questions.
Absolutely.
We are still waiting for some questions to come in.
There's one, Rob, about what about opening a new Montessori high school? In the future, and there has been conversation about being able to do that. Right now, with our landscape and our financial situation, we are not able to open another school now. There has been conversation or thought or an idea put out around creating a Montessori high school in what would be the central corridor of our district, but we're not able to do that at this time.
Thank you very much, Superintendent. Superintendent, can you share a little bit about why now? Why is the discussion in phase 2, or why are these plans coming up? What are some of the challenges the district's facing to be able to that they're developing this plan?
Absolutely. As I shared at the top of the hour, we began in May and late spring, early summer, working to close a pretty severe budget gap. And that budget gap at that time was around $36 million. And so what we are trying to do is avoid being in that same situation, moving towards the budget building process of fiscal year 26. If we don't begin to do things differently now, then we will find ourselves in the same crisis as far as our budget goes. The other piece that is of concern is, again, wanting to be able to provide families who want Montessori or in any education program in demand that sooner as opposed to later. And all of our families are extremely valuable to us, and we do not want to have to turn people away because they don't have or can't get their number one choice from their school district. So we're really trying to provide the best customer service to those who are not currently receiving some services that they desire, or they want to continue their child's current Montessori programming. And if things stay as they are right now, then they won't be able to. And so that really is of great concern to me. And my priority is to be able to do everything we can to serve all students of our district by providing them with the programming that they are desiring.
Superintendent, thank you very much. That's fantastic. We have a couple of Facebook questions coming in, so we're going to start throwing them your way.
All right.
And again, real quick, I'll just kind of go over what's happening just for anyone who's logged in. We have open office hours with our superintendent. We're taking Facebook questions. We've put the Zoom link also on, so if you'd like to come over and interact directly with the superintendent, you can do that through Zoom. And you can also just share in the chat like we're about to do. We're about to read off some of your questions to the superintendent. All right, here we go. All right, our first Facebook question. I think I can just be, how would this help transportation? So the question really is, how will this help transportation, Superintendent?
Well, that's a great question. So this could help the entire plan going to could possibly help, and we do expect that it will help to lessen the cost for transportation. So for example, there is a proposal in the plan that the School for Creative and Performing Arts go from having two start times. There is an elementary and a high school start time, therefore making two streams of bus pickup and drop off to one. And then that way, that would lessen the cost of transportation just for that one school pretty significantly. And so we also believe that in looking at the corridor model of the school, not only going north to south, but also east to west, we believe that could also lessen the cost of transportation. By having an emphasis on our neighborhoods and the corridor system, moving forward in our district, we don't have to have kids and families traveling across the district for experiences. And we believe that too can lessen the cost of transportation.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Superintendent. Our next question is about moving the autism users and teachers and students. I know we heard a little bit about this at the board meeting. Can you talk a little bit more about what the ideology around this is?
Yeah, the thought is, and again, we're looking at this as a holistic measure. When we moved the units in phase one, we moved the entire unit, the entire classroom, and the teacher and the paraprofessional that were a part of that community. So we want to do our best not to lose that community. And so we're looking at a unit as a whole. Um, we are also looking at our units across the district in terms of how far our children and their families have to travel from home to school. In the past, that has not been a factor in the decisions to place and to reset units, but moving forward, placing units, resetting those units, looking at how far kids have to travel and be on the yellow bus is going to be a significant factor should we move forward with this plan.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
My name is Miss Clark. Is there anything in the change regarding transportation? We've talked a little bit about transportation already. For Miss Clark, she missed it. She just says she's frustrated a little bit with my daughter attends Walnut Hills, and some days the metro is having a hard time compensating for the public and student transportation. Last week, Metro had to call an extra bus just to pick up students. So I
Yeah,
don't know if you want to
I
address that.
absolutely, and I appreciate that question as well. The one good thing I can say about the relationship with Metro this school year is they have been excellent at being responsive. So we hear and we understand the frustration that was just shared, but the example given about them immediately sending another bus is something that I have found has been the case all school year. And so we're definitely appreciative of Metro and their responsiveness. I think this gives us an opportunity to work with Metro in looking at the traffic flow, the bus flow, what time the buses are coming, how often the routes are coming, so that we can make adjustments. And I don't think that has to wait until next school year. I believe we do that as we are in real time, even for the 2024-2025 school year. I have seen them do that more than one time, and I feel very confident that they will continue to partner with us to be able to provide the very best service for our students.
Thank you very much. Another SCPA parent here, and how does that even make a difference when the high school children don't ride yellow buses? So I guess it's a little bit about the redesign and how it's affecting schools. Will you see a change in Metro Bus with the new system, Metro Bus, the Metro Bus system?
So I'll go back over the Metro buses as a whole. We're looking at a corridor model, which would provide us with east, west, and central access. We believe that with some of the adjustments over time, this will lessen the times young people are on the bus, and then B, lessen the amount of transfers. We do have a good number of our students who have just one bus ride. We do have a few who do have to transfer, but we believe that in working with Metro, our proposal could even lessen the number of students who have to ride more than one bus even more. And so we're in conversations about that, not completely there yet, but definitely in conversations, and believe that it will have a positive impact in those two areas. Right now, there are two tiers of buses that are going to the School for Creative and Performing Arts. If we can work to get that to one tier, then that will lessen a yellow bus transportation cost. So we're talking kind of two different things. The Metro having a different kind of impact than what we would hope to find with yellow bus transportation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Superintendent. We appreciate that. We have a question from, actually, let me pause for a minute and kind of explain to people what we're doing. This is an open office district growth discussion with our superintendent, who's doing a fantastic job. Thank you so much. We are taking your questions. We've shared the Zoom link on Facebook. If you'd like to join us on Zoom, you're welcome to. We can invite you in. You can have a conversation. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's open office hours with our superintendent about the growth plan. Or you can just message us on Facebook in the comments and we'll continue asking the questions and we'll continue working through the answers. So yeah, so it's great. So please interact in any format you choose. And we really appreciate your time and participation on our Halloween holiday. So, all right, our next question is from Anna. How many units are open to merging into buildings, and will teams be broken up in the process? Anna, I'm not sure if we're talking about the Montessori systems and we've had some questions about the autism units, so I'm not sure which one that's about. Can you talk a little about moving units and will some of them be broken up? Will this be part of that process?
I will tell you that we are not interested in breaking up the units if you mean separating out the students from their teachers and paraprofessionals who may be in those classrooms. That is not what we're interested in doing. I hope that is somewhat helpful to your question.
Thank you, Anna. We hope we answer that question. If not, please, expand in the comments, and we'll make sure to try and get your question answered. Our next question is what is the quarter model? What does it mean?
Oh, yeah.
That's
Okay,
I think
great.
that's a great question. Yeah.
That's a fantastic question. I'm sorry. So over the years, we have structured our school district around neighborhood schools, around magnet schools, um, schools of choice for high schools. This model corridor looks at three different ways to view our city, and that is an east corridor or system of schools, a central or system of schools, and a west or central of schools. And what the ad hoc committee work said is that if there is a program offered on the west side of school, they want to see it also offered and available to young people on the east side of the city, of the district. So an example I can think of for you is at Dater High School on the west side, we have an international baccalaureate program. At the present time, we do not have one for high school on the west side. The same is true at elementary, that International Baccalaureate or the IB program is offered at Roberts on the west side, but is not offered on the east side. And so programming wise, we're looking at what can we do to be able to offer that same quality program that we have on the west side on the east side of town. So that too, the programmatic pieces are also a part of the work that we're doing. We are looking at our career and technical education program. A lot of times the public refers to that as vocational education, and they wonder what happened to the vocational programs. Well, yes, there have been a change in those programs as set forth by the state and the requirements of the state. However, they are still existing in many areas in our high schools. And so what we want to do is heighten the awareness around career and technical education. We want to increase the number of programs in career and technical education. We have heard from students over the years who have said, we want cosmetology in our school district. And so we're working towards being able to provide that. At one time in Cincinnati Public Schools, we had an entrepreneurship program. Well, that entrepreneurship program no longer exists. However, there are so many young people who are interested in creating, starting, implementing a business. And so what we want to do, and what Ad Hoc has said, bring back the opportunities for kids to learn about entrepreneurship. Another area of interest to a lot of people in our city is automotive. Some of you may remember when Cincinnati Public Schools had automotive programming. In the 80s, I believe was about the last time we had such programming, but we're looking at, because it is in demand and that there are a lot of young people and their families who are interested in exposing their young people to that, we're looking at bringing back automotive programming, of course, with the 2025 feel to our schools for our kids across our district and landscape to be able to participate in. We're also, just to talk a little bit as people are generating questions for us and feedback and things for us to consider. Um, we also are looking at our growing multilingual learner programs. We have more and more students who don't necessarily speak English as a first language, and we have their families who we would like to do a better, stronger job of supporting. So there is a welcome center that I would consider kind of a model for what we're looking to expand at Roberts School on the west side. But we also have people who are needing something on the north side of town, on the southern aspect of our town. And so, what we want to do is expand the model for a welcome center that is happening at Roberts to other areas in our city. We're also looking at adding what we call wraparound services, starting with increasing opportunities for our students and families experiencing homelessness. And so what we're looking to do is add opportunities for uniform closets to be able to provide toiletries, school supplies, book bags, etc., to young people who need those services in order to be able to go to school and to do well and not have to worry about they don't have the supplies that they need to be successful today. So we're calling that the WRAP, which would cause for us to move some other programming in one of our school buildings in order to expand on those types of services. I'll
And
pause again.
yeah, we are heating up. We got plenty of questions, Superintendent. We appreciate everyone jumping in and throwing questions. So I'm gonna dig right to it. This first one is kind of heavy. Concerning open enrollment, now that we accept all students, lottery, our schools like SCP and Walnuts have a completely different demographic of students, yet we do not have support systems to support these students. Paras, IS, behaviors, security, not to mention that there is non-MTSS process and there's no training for teachers to handle all these behavior issues that are now overwhelming our Gen Ed classes. How are you going to offer support for these services we, by law, have to support?
Yeah,
Big
absolutely.
question.
I may have misunderstood
That's
some
okay.
parts of the question, but I think I heard schools like SCPA and Walnut Hills have a need for stronger systems of support. I think I heard that there needs to be strengthening around their multi-tiered systems of support. I think I heard
Mhm.
that they need additional support around behavior issues. And I will say that all of our schools are considered community learning centers, all of our schools. And most of our schools, minus one, has had the support of a lead agency and a resource coordinator. The purpose of the resource coordinator is to look at what are the specific needs of the school that they are assigned to. That includes SCPA, for example. I think I heard that. But all of our schools have the opportunity for this. What we also have in every school is a mental health partner. And so that mental health partner will vary from school to school. Some cover more than one or two schools, but there are mental health therapists available to support kids who have that type of a need or families who would like to have additional support around mental health for their kids. Several years ago, our school board made the decision to put school counselors in all of our high schools and to provide that support as well in our K-8 buildings. I can remember being a high school principal and having a counselor, one counselor, having a school social worker, for example, one day out of the week. Now, at this point, our schools have school social workers, full-time school social workers to help with just the type of needs that you're describing. They also have full-time school counseling services as well. And so I believe that our school board administration is working really hard to make sure we identify the needs of the children who are in our schoolhouses and working to meet those needs. I am curious, and I'm happy to have conversation deeper about what need you see that maybe is not being met, not being addressed.
Thank you very much, Superintendent. Real quick, I know this doesn't have district growth, and we're going to try and focus a little bit on that because we only have a half an hour left. But I want to be genuine to the individuals who are asking about transportation, specifically at SCPA. Their seventh and eighth graders are on the yellow bus. And there seems to be some frustration being shared on Facebook. I guess the bus was 40 minutes late today, and there seem to be seeing some struggles. So I wanted to just share that with you. I know you've talked a little bit about how the growth plan is going to affect them in the future. But just to be genuine and share for those individuals who have that concern. So
Absolutely. I'm happy to reach out to the principal about a yellow bus that is late. We are happy to work with our vendors, talk to our vendors about what may have caused that bus to be 40 minutes late, but we definitely are on the same page about not wanting that. So I will reach out to the principal, ask him if he can help me with identifying what bus that was, and we can work to get that cleaned up.
thank you very much. Does splitting the middle school program jeopardize the Clark Montessori AMA accreditation? I know we talked about it, but have you seen anything that actually says that will actually affect our accreditation?
That's a great question, and I'm glad there's care and concern. I have not read or seen anything that would indicate that splitting out seventh and eighth grade would have an impact on the accreditation. Nothing.
And that accreditation actually is AMS, so I was
Mhm.
corrected. But
I understood. I understood
so
that question.
thank you. So we've talked about the Clark Montessori again. More questions about them staying in seventh grade. There seems to be a deep concern about that. We've talked about it a little bit. A gifted program on the west side and the east side. Are there any examples or plans in the district, the new growth plan about a gifted program on both sides of the corridors?
So the Spencer School is gifted on the east, grades 3 to 12. Gifted on the west right now is at Cheviot School, but only for those elementary grades. So there is something on the east, there is something on the west. Cheviot School is with Principal Tammy Solomon Gray, does carry the elementary grades.
Thank you very much. And of course, Spencer is going to stay a district-wide school even in the new corridor system, correct?
That's correct. Spencer will remain district-wide at high school, even in the corridor system. That's correct.
All right. And we have a question from our board president, Eve Bolden. Thank you for the
Wonderful.
question, Ms. Bolden. Can you explain the changes we're proposing for the Zoo Academy and the changes for Sailor Park Schools? Give us a
Oh,
little overview of those.
I am very excited about both of those programs, both of those schools. So I'll start with the Zoo Academy. So the Zoo Academy is, I think, our longest standing magnet program in this school district. It is pretty much housed through Hughes STEM High School, but we have for years had a number of students across the district express interest in being able to go. In the past or to date, we have not been able to have kids from across the district. Say you are a Withrow High School student and you want that Zoo Academy experience, we've not been able to do that. But luckily, our school board has said, and ad hoc committee in particular, has said, hey, this program should be district-wide, available to any student within the Cincinnati Public School District. So we did open it up this school year. We do plan to deepen that, expand that, do more marketing around that so that everyone knows that this is a possibility for any student in the Cincinnati Public School District. That's the Zoo Academy. The Zoo Academy, sometimes people ask me where that is. It is at the Cincinnati Zoo. They do work with zookeepers. The students are there all day. The academic teachers are there on site at the Zoo Academy. If you're interested in a visit, please let me know. We're happy to provide a tour. It is an amazing state-of-the-art program. The other question was about Sailor Park. So the proposal to the board about Sailor Park is to make that Instead of its current K-8, pre-K 8 status, that we would make it a pre-K to 12 school. So next school year, fiscal year 25-26, fiscal year 26, or the 2025-2026 school year, the eighth graders would remain at Sailor Park as ninth graders, and every year we would grow that school out so that community has a pre-K to 12 campus. Programming wise, I'm even more excited about this. We are looking at bringing several programs. One is a junior ROTC program. Some families are interested in a myriad of junior ROTC programming. We are researching quite a few and then looking at what will be the best bet. So, for example, whether that is going to be Air Force or the Navy or the Coast Guard, but we're looking into those to see what will be the best fit, at least to get started with for Sailor Park. The other is an early college opportunity for our young people. We currently have an early college experience at Schroeder High School through the University of Cincinnati that is going well, and we're looking to expand that the far side of the town at Sailor Park. So those two programs and the expansion of those grade levels.
Thank you very much, Superintendent. I think our next question, we've talked a little about Clark 7th and 8th, but there was a question about having a Montessori in the Central Corridor
Mhm.
to be able to take that and keep Clark 7th and 8th. But can you talk a little about any plans for a Montessori in the Central Corridor?
Absolutely. I think if we could dream a world, right now, we would propose an additional Montessori high school. I believe that. But with our current resources at this time, we're just not able to do that. And so what our next best thinking would be is the proposal that you saw Saturday during the board's work session and discussed Monday night.
Thank you. And I really think it's important that we appreciate the Clark parents coming out tonight and being proud of their school and trying to protect, what the Montessori ideology. So thanks for coming out, everyone. We really do appreciate it. There was some clarification about the question about supports around SEPA in schools and student welfare that we had that long question. I think they're trying to clarify about social workers.
Yeah.
Can you just share a little bit what the supports are in all of our schools? Because there is a full-time social worker in every school.
The
So
board, like I mentioned, at one point when I was a high school principal, I had a school social worker 1 day a week for about 1,200 students. The school board said, hey, we recognize the needs of our families, of our students, and they determined that we would invest in every school having a school social worker. So that is the level that we are at right now. SCPA, all of our schools have full-time school social workers in the building. If you want to connect with me separately, I am happy to get you the name and an introduction to who your school social worker is, or if it's more convenient for you, I'm sure your principal, your school principal, would be able to share that information. But I'm happy to work with you to make that connect if you don't know or not clear about who that person is.
fantastic. I also have some feedback. My son is interested in the arts, and SCPA is the only school, and there's no options for autism. So a little bit about autism and the arts. Maybe discussion around that.
Sure. Our school board also several years ago, this is outside of the ad hoc plan, said to schoolhouses, said through our budget process that we need PE, art, and music in all of our schools. And so at this time, our schools have a full complement of those services, PE, art, and music. And so every kid, even a kid who may be in an autism unit or somewhere with autism, should be able to receive those services. So that's another one. Anyone who needs to be specific about what is happening with their child, we're happy to address that. But there should be some time art being provided to your child no matter what school.
Thank you very much, Superintendent.
Absolutely.
Um, what is the reason for seventh and eighth graders were in the past were moved to high schools years ago, And now, what data or reason are they being taken back out? Um, what are we doing differently this time? What will or has changed?
Absolutely. Great question, especially as someone who has serviced kids in a pre-K to 8 building and someone who has worked with kids as a principal in a 7 to 12 building. At the time, many years ago, when the kids were pulled out of the 7, 8, K8 buildings, and moved to the 7 into a 712 situation, it was so that the teachers at grades 7 and 8 who had content area professionalism or experience or credentialing could serve those kids. The licensures really vary in our district and in our state, I really should say. And so there was time that the thought was that was what was best. What we have done is outgrown our high school buildings. Our high school buildings are overcrowded, they're over capacity, where we have elementary buildings that are under capacity, severely under capacity. We call it building utilization. To what extent are our buildings being utilized for the purpose of education? And so this plan that we presented, our growth plan, is an attempt to even out in terms of creating a healthy, what we're calling a healthy enrollment that is at least 70 to 80% or better utilization. And the one way to do that is to pull 7th and 8th graders from our buildings and create middle schools, create junior highs. That's one reason. Another reason is because in doing research and studying and listening to what families have asked for, that middle-aged child needs a different type of setting, needs a different type of approach. It's not a high school approach and it's not an elementary school approach. And so we have created a model where we've created junior highs, we've created middle schools. Some of the schools in the proposal will have grades 7, 8. Some will have grades 6, 7, 8. And there's one or two that has grades 5 through 8.
Thank you, Superintendent. Here's a shout out. JROTC is long overdue. I discussed this with previous leaders, so just a shout out and then a little bit of excitement there.
Well, I do want
Um,
to share on that point, Rob. We did start a junior ROTC program at Aiken High School, an Army junior ROTC program at Aiken High School 2 years ago. It began with one instructor. It went really well, and the junior ROTC program has added a second instructor. And so my ideal is to be able to add as many branches of the military for students who have that interest as possible. So we are growing out junior ROTC. So thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. All right. Our next question is, what is happening with Westward Elementary sixth graders next year? And I think, Superintendent, just for a moment, I think maybe explain a little bit that no decision has been made. That what we're talking about is community discussion, getting feedback. That you can't really answer what will happen next year because this is part of the process, right?
I appreciate that, Rob. So what we started doing, I'll just back up on the engagement just a little bit. We
Yeah.
started the engagement process by first talking to principals about what their thoughts were for their school, what they would want to see. If they could dream a world, what would that world look like for them? Then we had a discussion with local school decision-making committees and asked them essentially those same questions. And where we are now after presenting to the board during their retreat last Saturday, and then presenting or answering questions or hearing some feedback Monday during the board meeting, is now we're going back out into the community councils. This coming Monday, you will see the beginnings of a community council engagement calendar and schedule. So you're absolutely right. I can't say exactly what will happen, if any of this plan will be accepted, if there are parts of the plan that will be accepted. I don't know at this point, but we'll continue to work on addressing questions, comments, concerns, listening to your feedback. And believe me, your feedback is critically important to this proposal being successful.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And if you're just tuning in or you're watching, we've had a lot of people jump in and it's really exciting. We're taking this time, and there will be more sessions, by the way, more open office sessions. So please watch out for those because we may at this point not be able to get all of the questions that have been asked before the time is up today.
I do
So
want to
please
say
keep asking.
I'll
Oh,
add in,
please go.
Rob, not to interrupt you, that
Oh,
this
please.
this is the first open office hour. This is the first. There will be more posted to the district website and shared through social. Those dates for the month of November have been selected. There are dates that will be during the day that may work out better for families. And are dates that are in the evening around this time, for example, that may be more helpful as well. So there are additional dates. This is the first. It will not be the last.
You're good. Thank you, Superintendent.
Yes.
Can you give us an example of a high school that's overpopulated and how the plan addresses that? Maybe like Hughes High School, something like
Yeah.
that.
For example, Hughes High School. Absolutely. Hughes High School has, I believe, about 1,400 students. That may not be the exact number. And then we have some schools, some elementary schools that might have 250 students, and that elementary school is built for 650 students. This is just one example. And so what we're trying to do is even out all of our buildings across the district and working really hard to not close any buildings. One thing that I have not shared that this question is making me think about is you may or may not be aware of a law in the state of Ohio that says if our buildings are not utilized to a particular capacity, that those buildings could be taken away from our school district. And so one of the things we're trying to do is we control our own destiny. And so we want to solve our own concerns before someone else um, puts a mandate on how to address those concerns. We believe in public education. We believe that we have the best and the strongest teachers. We believe we have the best and the strongest resources. And we are guarding against anyone who may think or try to suggest differently.
Thank you, Superintendent. Our next question is a little bit about EdChoice. Do you think the option of EdChoice scholarships impacted school census being low? And has
Definitely
that
think
affected the growth plan?
I
Yeah.
definitely think that EdChoice vouchers has had a negative impact on public school education. I will say this, I am extremely proud of Cincinnati Public Schools and where we are with enrollment, where we are with the types of programming that we are able to offer our community. We are the second largest public school urban public school district in in the state of Ohio. We plan to maintain that and to grow that. We plan to be good stewards of our taxpayer dollars, and we plan to take advantage of every benefit that you, as a taxpaying citizen, has provided and afforded us. Yes, we do have people who are saying those dollars should be rerouted and allowed to serve students who do not choose public education. We don't think that's right. We don't like it. So we are trying to do everything we can to stand up public education in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Thank you, Superintendent. I think real quick, we're going to address a question about Halloween. We know we put this first one on Halloween. We know families are getting ready for trick-or-treating. We know that seems to be some frustration. We have great attendance and we appreciate everybody being here. And we have put many more of these discussions on the calendar. So this was just a night that we were available to be able to get it out. So, and we have many more for people to join. And if they have to get off for Halloween, we completely understand and we hope to see you at a future event. So, Superintendent, you want to comment anything on that as well?
I would echo that, Rob. This open office hour opportunity was not made to frustrate anyone. We do understand this is Halloween night. I do have two young grandchildren in Cincinnati Public Schools who are very excited about Halloween night. For me, it was also important to, as soon as I possibly could, set up opportunities to hear from you and to answer your questions. And so, again, not meant to frustrate you. We are a school district that has a variety of students and grade levels and backgrounds and interests. And so if this date is not the best date for you, I understand. We do have several more dates coming up throughout the month of November. This is only the first and only an opportunity if you choose to engage in this way at this time.
Thank you, Superintendent. A good question here. How much will this plan cost?
So we are costing out the plan. Some of the programs I mentioned are more lofty than others. For example, I shared with you our interest in bringing automotive to Cincinnati Public Schools and bringing cosmetology and bringing entrepreneurship. Other parts of this program won't cost as much as people might be thinking in terms of being able to, for example, move one special education unit from one building to another building. The cost, the physical labor of that is a cost. But in terms of having that unit, this is not adding additional units. It's not taking away additional units. So we would still have, by contract, the right number of students in a classroom, the teacher that's required, as well as a paraprofessional that is required. If we do choose to expand something like International Baccalaureate program, yes, there will be a cost to training, a cost to curriculum. Absolutely. If we decide to add, and it gets approved to add a junior ROTC program, yes, there is a cost to that. You might be amazed at that cost. It's so very interesting. What it costs Cincinnati Public Schools to pay for the instructor for the Army Junior ROTC at Aiken High School this year is $50,000. The military takes care of the uniforms the kids use, the curriculum the kids use, the materials that are used. And so it is of great benefit for us to be able to leverage partnerships in that way. In the slide deck that will be presented and shared this coming Monday, the board asked us to cost this out and to make it public. You will be able to see that more specifically at that time.
Thank you very much, Superintendent. We're going to go back to the SEPA walnut question. I think there's been some discussion back and forth, and they're trying to clarify the question for us.
Yes.
They're saying that open enrollment at these schools, there has been a change in dynamics, that there's more behavioral disruptions, and in the future, what does the teacher support look like in dealing with such behaviors as it's hinging on the learning process for other students? And I think the first note is that the growth plan does not affect these schools for the most part. Is that correct,
The
Superintendent?
only part, there are a couple of things about the growth plan I'll say, as it relates to SEPA, we mentioned the potential of changing, being able to address transportation. For Walnut, there is a proposal about being able to expand possibly if there is land that can be acquired. So they are in the growth plan. But just to clarify that, open enrollment, I do want to discuss that. I want to talk about vocabulary there and make sure I understand. So open enrollment in the past has been done in our school district during the month of May. Students are accepted via open enrollment only if there is space, a seat available. If the residents of Cincinnati, Ohio have taken up the spaces, then we do not offer that programming during the month of May to those students. We wait until May to make sure that we have addressed every single student in our school district who wants a seat. So open enrollment, I just want to make sure we have the same working definition there. For SCPA, it is still at the high school level, 7th grade on up, an audition process. Elementary school, it is a lottery process. Walnut Hills is still a school that you have to test into, and so those components have not changed. I hope that kind of clarifies a little bit.
No, that's good. I think the only other question I would ask, it seems there's some frustration around behavioral supports for teachers or behavioral issues with students. Any plans for supports for the teachers in that instance at those schools?
I would address anything specific like that outside of the growth plan for right now. If you want to reach out to me directly, please feel free to do so that we can get your concern addressed immediately. Don't want to really ask you what school, what child, all that right now. But please, we want to assist you in bringing resolution to your concern.
Thank you, Superintendent. We hope the group that's been having that conversation that helps address some of that. Thank you so much. Trying to figure out why a school like Hughes has changed to a 7th and 8th grade school. I graduated from there 20 years ago. Congratulations on graduating from Hughes. And it was packed with 9th to 12th graders. So
That's correct. That's correct. So at one point, when we had 9 through 12 high schools, and we had several of our schools that were K-8, the decision was made to shift with what was called My Tomorrow, because we felt and believed that with proper teacher licensure and certification, they can meet those instructional needs of those students better than when they were in a K-8 building, where you may have had an elementary certified teacher who maybe didn't have the specific credential in mathematics or English or science or social studies. So that is at least partially why some of that decision was made.
thank you. My next question, we're getting down to the last few minutes here, Superintendent. Again, thank you very much for having the open office hours. I think it's been great to get feedback. Why can you talk about a little bit about why in the plan there is a to move the Ed Center over to Jacobs, or why that's being proposed?
So that is phase 3, and that is contingent on a lot of things. So that is not something that's going to happen immediately, but it is conversation about a possibility. Conversation about a possibility. So we looked at what property do we have across the district, including the Education Center, including Jacob Center, and there are possibilities about what we could do with the Jacob Center. This is only Shauna Murphy commentary about how in demand the Ed Center might be in this community right now, and how there may be interest in purchasing of this place. That's Shauna Murphy commentary. But with the Jacob Center, are there opportunities to do more with that property that could benefit our city, our school district, our students? So that's phase 3. That is not as immediate. And while Rob is looking at questions, I do want to take a moment to thank you very much. Your thoughts, your questions, your opinions definitely matter, makes a difference. I am here to serve you and your children, and I mean that sincerely. And I am only interested in helping our school district to grow, to be the very best school district. And I do believe that to be the case, as I mentioned earlier. I did attend Cincinnati Public Schools. My daughter is a graduate of Cincinnati Public Schools. My grandchildren are here currently enrolled in Cincinnati Public Schools. And your opinion, your thoughts, your suggestions, we take seriously. We do work hard in digging in and looking at your thoughts, your suggestions, to make this the very best school district for everyone in the city of Cincinnati.
Thank you so much,
Bob, are there
Superintendent.
any final questions?
I'm just going to read a thought here. Someone has a comment. I don't really think there's a question to go with it. I think, and this will be the last one we can get to today. I think in order for CPS to even have a chance to compete with private schools in EdChoice, then they'll need to look at what private schools are offering. Smaller classes, more programs for kids with learning disabilities, and not just putting them in a classroom, but integrating into a classroom with other kids. More additional one-on-one learning. So that was just a comment from one of our community members. So thank you. We appreciate the comment. Superintendent, do you want to share anything on that comment, or?
I do. I appreciate the comment. I really do. I really
Perfect.
appreciate that.
Superintendent, I have the growth plan up. We're running out of time here. I mean, the calendar up, the office hours calendar up. Our next session is going to be next Thursday at 4:30. So if you weren't able to engage, or if you're just watching and you get questions next week, we really would love to have you back. So next Thursday on November 7th at 4:30 will be our next session. Then we will have, and next time we will have this in the chat and we'll have it organized for you. But I just want to share for the audience. On November 14th at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Again, we'll have the same session on Facebook and on Zoom. Again, you're welcome to join us. So that's the 7th at 4:30. That's the 14th at 12 p.m. And then on the 18th at 12 p.m., we will also, November 18th at 12 p.m., we will also have another session. And then we will have one on the 25th at 12 p.m. So those are just a few of the dates that we will be continuing this discussion. And this is open office hours and just questions with our superintendent. Superintendent, thank you so much for taking the time to do this and
My
just have
pleasure.
this open time of conversation. Is there
My
anything else you
pleasure.
want to share before we
Yeah, thank
sign
you,
off?
Rob, for helping to facilitate this. Thank you to our communications team as well for getting this out to the public and to the public. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful night.